where it's like I'm looking for someone in a crowd and then I lock eyes.
That's a good intro. Lock eyes with the audience. They feel
welcome. They feel seen.
Mm-hmm.
Then I look away because I'm shy.
And she's shy. She found us, but now she's shy.
I keep looking back.
What?
I keep looking back, but they caught me, so now I'm...
Oh, they gotta keep watching. They gotta know. Welcome. I am Bully.
And I'm Rachel.
And we are here to talk to you about Larp. Specifically, the Darkness Emergent Chicago Larp that we attended. So basically, we're just here to talk about our experience with the Larp as very new LARPers. If you don't know what a Larp is, that's a live action role play. And if that doesn't mean anything to you, I don't have time for that right now. But maybe I will later. But we've done one before, and this was very different in a way that I liked. It was really interesting in the way that this wasn't just like you go and you do a LARP. Darkness Emergent is an ongoing, I guess, a chronicle or kind of a series of LARPs that By Night Studios does. And this was the second one of their kind of 5th edition launch of it. They had one in San Antonio last year. This is number 2. This was in Chicago. And basically it's a LARP, but it's also a convention where it goes Thursday through Sunday. They have panels during the day. They have sort of like actual like TTRPG games you can play. They have merch. And they have other like kind of, I won't say mini LARPs. It's like every day was a LARP, but the main one was on Saturday. We only did the main one because again we're new, we're shy.
I'm shy.
One of us, we'll get to that, but we got into I don't know, we experienced a lot, so we're gonna tell you about what it was and tell some stories about it just to give you an idea of LARP in general as new people into it, and then this specific event, which was really cool. So yeah, let's start. So this event had some special guests. There was Jason Carl, who was playing Critias. B. Dave Walters was playing Prince Kevin Jackson. And Tanya DePass was playing Inyanga. So the special guests were around the whole time. It was actually one thing I noticed that was kind of cool is how, I say this with caution for people not to be weird, but like how accessible, like they were literally like hanging out, talking to people. They were doing some of the panels. They were at like viewing some of the panels as well as participating in some of the LARPs. There's VIP events they have too, depending what level of ticket you get, where you can go to special dinners. They have some LARPs that were just kind of like meet the court, where you get to meet just these special guests and stuff like that. So yeah, that was kind of a cool thing. LARPs, I guess, tend to have NPCs anyway, and since this is sort of a premium LARP event, they got some names you might recognize to play some also recognizable characters in the vampire lore. So it was pretty cool. And then there also was other people there who, like Cynthia Marie was there, Knox from Hunters Entertainment was there, a few other content creators, vampire streamers you'd probably recognize. So it was a real who's who, and we were also there.
Were we whose?
That's for you to decide. A big reason, well, there's a few reasons. Like I said, I was curious about this. I wanted to do another LARP to kind of just get a feel for, again, just the whole thing. And we do book reviews, and they just came out with the 5th edition book. So I was like, if I'm going to review the LARP book, I feel like I should do a LARP using that book. So that was a big reason to go. And also it was in Chicago, which was close to us, close enough to take a train. And it was someone's very first train ride.
To Chicago.
They were so excited.
So,
and
I've never ridden trains before in this great nation.
In this great nation?
In America, okay. I'll say. And also in other countries. Never been on plenty of trains, but I've never taken this train to Chicago specifically, which was a really big deal to Bully.
She was so nervous, and she was so happy and excited. We'll roll the clips. I don't know
Like
if I
a
have
montage.
clips. Yeah, this is where we'll show the montage of you on your very first
In
train.
the set to, can I request that it's set to the Joe when I'm back in Chicago? I feel it. I'm gonna pull.
She doesn't know what to do. It's her first time on a train.
Started now, and you're just finding out. Now isn't that a laugh? A major sacrifice, but clueless at the time. Enter Caroline. Just trust me, you'll be fine.
Anyway, I suggest if it's a new LARP for you, bring a friend who's never been on a train. Get them on a train, and it'll really just set the mood for
It'll set
anything
a tone.
is possible.
What I will say is what you did set a tone for the rest of my weekend.
Which was
We'll get into it.
anything's possible. Thursday they had like a VIP event, little LARP. They had a dinner that was also a different VIP event, and they had a Dark Ages LARP, which I did want to check out. We didn't get in time. Then they have like a social afterwards at the hotel, which I should say, this isn't like a convention center. They rent out like a floor of the hotel, and that's where like all the panels and stuff are. The LARP events are typically off-site. So we didn't make it to that, but we were riding high from the train and just so excited to start our LARP journey after that. Which brings us to Friday. Friday was when the panels starting with a keynote panel, sort of welcome in, give you the gist of what to expect, and cover some things really quick. We've done, the other LARP we did was a huge, long, like multiple hour workshop / safety tools / all of this, which I understand and is good to do. This LARP was very much more, not a lot of hand holding, as far as kind of expected you to do a little bit of your homework. I feel like
They expected, I think it's like you're expected to know the etiquette when you're there. There was very much like an attitude of basically being like, these things won't be tolerated. If you need something, here's who to ask. We expect you to be able to use those tools and take advantage of them if you need them, and if you have other concerns, come talk to us. But it was less this like sit down, less of an open forum for people to contribute to, which I think really helped. They had a question system that was, you enter the question on your phone,
yeah.
and then they would answer it, like either read a question out and answer it, or they could come answer it just like back so you could read it, which I felt was really a nice way to handle that, to do like, we don't have to sit and field this, someone had a story from another LARP and they want to bring up their experience here, and I understand why you might want to do that, but it's not necessarily beneficial for the whole group. It might be a question you just fire away on your phone. They help answer that concern, and if it needs to be a bigger conversation, they had ways to make that happen. So
yeah, I felt like they did a good job of like, hey, if you have questions, here's exactly who to talk to and where to find them and how to get these questions out, or if you want more information. But we're not gonna take everyone's time to cover every possible scenario that's ever happened in a LARP, and I appreciated that. And it's no secret, I'm not the friendliest beta in town, but I personally, to me, that's what set the tone for me, is realizing they like, oh, we're kind of just like treated like adults, and we're assuming a basic level of etiquette. Was awesome. And I didn't see any problems. It worked out. It was kind of it feels like some people are like, if I don't cover everything, something might go wrong. I don't know. Like I said, did a good job of explaining. They covered things, just not in excess like we have experienced in other ones. And they had panels, so they did that, which we both attended. And then
And then something horrible happened because I was also not a friendly presence Friday morning, despite my usual, unironically, my usual very cheerful spirit, and my heart full of whimsy, because I felt horrible and I didn't quite know why, and I didn't know if I had like a migraine or what was going on.
Well, we figured it out. Sometimes we get so excited on a train.
No,
The crash.
You've been waiting to do this, and I'm gonna drive back to my home.
I'll have to say, the train didn't crash, but Rachel crashed from just the adrenaline and excitement.
I
She
think
was
the
on a train for the first time, and then waking up one day knowing you didn't have a train to ride, quite literally almost killed you.
It didn't. But two, it did cause me a great deal of strife. Not being on a train, but I'm not going to blame Amtrak for what happened to me, but I did get some kind of food poisoning, and I was quite sick most of Friday. So I went to one panel. We went and got lunch. I got an Uber back to where we were staying. The Uber dropped me off a full 10-minute walk away, and I stumbled through the streets of Chicago trying to find my way back in 85-degree weather. It felt so hot, but maybe it was because I was sick.
You were tested.
I was tested. I made it back. I was quite sick for a little while. Then I felt better. But meanwhile, you had a really productive day.
Oh, I was... what some people call the grind set is what I was doing that day. While you were... you threw up, and it's okay.
I threw up. And hang on, let me look right in the camera. I threw up. And if you threw up at a big event, it's okay. Nobody's mad at you. He's not mad at you. I'm not mad at you. Feel better.
And it's not from train sickness. It's actually, if you get car sickness, I don't think you're going to get motion sickness on a train. But if you get so excited because you've never been on a train before, you have to take care of yourself.
Everyone knew what you meant the first time. And so now you're inventing a reason to restate your point.
There's a couple of people out there excited to ride a train, and now they're wondering, am I going to throw up?
Am I going to throw up?
You might. And it's okay. While you were doing that, hey, thing about me, I've been on a train or two. So I was fine. I was normal. I was living my life. I got to attend some of the panels. There's representation in gaming. There was building your influencer network. Which was an interesting one because they pulled us into a little roundtable discussion.
Circle.
Yeah, it was fun. I liked it. It's great. Roll the clips. Great. Actually, there's one picture of me there. It's not a good picture of me, but there's one where I'm the framing for the picture where it's over my. Just saying.
Brag.
Hey. Then there's one about some of the writers talking about that navigating the path to publishing. Then there's By Night Studios did a panel with upcoming releases and sneak peeks. Then there was Embrace Your Dark Side, Mastering the Art of Villainy in Gaming. So a cool kind of spread of some industry stuff, some just hey, this is a fun thing to learn about, LARPing or role-playing. Had a nice spread, I thought. And I also spent this time, we did some interviews, which maybe are up now, maybe aren't yet. I don't know when I put these out. So I spent that day being very brave by myself, my little backpack, saying, "Can I talk to you, please?" On camera. And I did not take no for an answer. No, I don't think anyone told me no, so I didn't have to take no for an answer. Everyone was super polite. We talked to some people from By Night Studios who are wildly busy, but also took some time to talk to us, as well as some of these guests. So that was cool. I did that, hung out, got a feel for the place, where I checked out the merch, which they also do an auction. Well, they have a charity. So some of the LARP games, the one on Thursday night, the Dark Ages, you did it. It was $5 to play that, and that was included with your normal ticket. But that went to the charity, local charity
which
supported.
Was 826 Chicago.
Yes. The auction they did was for that, and they auctioned swords. It was just
just cool weapons.
Pulling out a sword in a group full of nerds and just letting them.
And just going kind of cool, and it was, and we all said, "Yeah,
I finally understood the joy parents get when they see their children
On
open
Christmas.
presents. I was like, everyone here is so happy to be seeing these little swords. And some were little, they're big swords.
But yeah.
Yeah, there's that. There's some, like I said, some tabletop games going on. There's like character workshops you could do too. So if you go in, you can work with one of the storytellers to help. If you come in with your character, they'll work stuff out with you, answer any questions you have. So again, you could do more like individualized preparation rather than like, hey, everyone sit here while we cover everything about how to play this game. So there's room for that. And then I went with Canada at midnight. They ran a LARP Friday, as well as Mind's Eye Society ran a Changeling LARP. But I ended up only having time to go to the Canada at Night one. That was at the Palette and Chisel, like a little, there's an art gallery that was in like this little mansion house nearby that there was a free shuttle to, so that was really cool. And I got to roll the clips, take photos, and take a bunch of like little video clips of people, which was really fun. And it was, I also like, you just want to kind of get a feel for things. So I was like, okay, a lot of the people at the main LARP are going to be doing this one too. This one was free. Just to, again, get a feel for it. And it was really cool. Everyone was like, brought their A game. It was also just, I love that everyone understood the assignment. People dressed up. People like, they had their outfits, and they got in the game. I didn't really know what to expect, but it was just really cool, just like going room to room, getting little footage of people. Shout out to the Freeman sisters. At one point, I'm not a photographer, as you'll see. Roll the clip. I don't really know what I'm doing in that sense. I was just trying to get just kind of little candids and walking around. Luckily, there was a real photographer there to help people out that were maybe expecting a good photo from me. That never happened. But I was trying to be real, like, you don't know, like, the seriousness of a LARP. Like, it's supposed to be immersion and this and that. So I'm like, I'm here with a camera. I don't want to be breaking people's immersion. Like, this is a vampire meeting. It shouldn't be some dude with a camera. So I'm really trying to be. But everyone was, made me feel very friendly. Again, a lot of proud parent moments. I'd point my camera at someone, and I'd see them sort of, like, do their thing or preen a little bit. And I was like, okay, there's good energy here. Back to the Freeman sisters. At one point, took a little rest, sat down in a chair. There's like this cool fancy stairwell that these very, very Arkansas vampires were just having stoop talk. They're just gossiping on the steps. I got pulled in because I heard someone's like, oh, and so-and-so's child, like talking about someone's kid, but like childer type of thing was funny to me. Then they're gossiping about how someone was like, hey, can I say something without anyone getting mad? And it's like something about those Banu Hakim. And then there was a lot of, some of the people didn't like that. And they're like, but no, I know I'm not like the Tremere man. I don't trust him as far as I could throw him.
It was in the context of like, there's something about him that I'm attracted to, right? Of like, there's something about, but I'm not interested in a Tremere man. Yeah,
but they let it know, hey, I'm not that much of a problem. I also know Tremere are toxic, and I agree with that. They talked about something about God. Most of these things started with, and I'm not a gossip, and then immediately would be gossiping. And at one point, I heard, and at the Veterans Memorial of all places, was really upset one of these Freeman sisters, which I later got the story of what happened. They were referencing their home game. All these wild, terrible things happen of someone getting like sacrificed there and like traitor or liar carved into them and all this stuff. Like all these harrowing things. And the only thing that really upset their character was the disrespect if it happened at the Veterans Memorial. I was dying, but I'm trying again. I'm like, don't break their immersion, but I'm over there just tee-heeing. It was a great time.
Just to add to this, after I started to feel better, we messaged and said, let's get dinner. And your words to me were essentially, I'll eat wherever you tell me to go. I'm very sleepy. I need to recharge. So we went to get food and sat down. I feel like you put the olive oil and your Parmesan and you got your bread. And the first thing you said was like, there were these women who were stupid.
They were stupid.
They were stupid. Like, it was as if you walked up in a haze and you were like, there's something I have to tell you. You pulled your phone out and just said they were stupid.
I took notes of some of the things they said so I wouldn't forget. Because I was a long day for me. And I truly was in a daze. And that brought me back.
Yeah.
And then we ate. You were better.
Yeah.
And then we went to the hotel and hung out with people in the hotel lobby, which is a con thing that typically happens. Like the hotel that everyone just kind of
Hotel
congregates
bar.
at. And this is most people are staying at that hotel, and that's where most of the events were happening. So it really was a nice centralized location. Don't want that happening again. We ran into a very close friend, Jason Carl, who I didn't realize was we've met him at Larp before.
Yeah.
Amazing individual. I'm sure you're all familiar. I was tickled by here's the thing about me. I'm very cool and very normal. I've seen people at other events just like swarm individuals and just like, or I feel like really weird about it. But I almost err too much on the side of caution where like I won't approach you without like the judge telling me I may approach type of thing. And he just came up. We did a little toast. We started chatting. Got to talk to other really cool people. Had a great night.
It was a very fun night.
And that was our Friday. And then Saturday, that's LARP day. That's the big day. This is another day of panels. We set up more interviews that night. But everyone was obviously super busy. So some didn't work out, some did. We went to some of the panels and we did more interviews together because someone finally calmed down from their adventure and they were camera ready. And what amazing energy you brought into that room and that building. Everyone was saying so.
Everyone was saying that. Everyone was said, was she throwing up yesterday?
Yeah.
Because
yesterday something was missing and it
was
felt like
off
someone
and it
threw
felt
up.
like someone threw up. But today she's
energy's-
walking around like someone who would never throw up.
Oh, I don't think she has her whole life, and now everyone feels so good. And that was Saturday. Panels. They had World of Darkness update by the aforementioned Jason Carl. They had a LA by Night panel because Jason, Carl, B. Dave Walters, and Cynthia Marie were there. They did a meet and greet with some of the special guests. They had a world building panel. They had the art of building LARPs panel. Mastering costuming on a budget panel, and creating horror characters that make hearts bleed panel. Fortunately, we missed a chunk of those because we were doing interviews. We're there to work. We do this for you. We sacrifice our fun and our bodies.
I was there for business.
For business. For
And I was
content.
telling everybody that.
I'm here for They
don't ask you that at the train station, actually. Take an
Business
airplane,
or
they say
pleasure?
business or pleasure. They don't say that at the train
No, but
station.
you let
I
them
wasn't
know.
I did.
And they didn't believe you because you looked like you were having so much fun. They're like, there's no way you're having business. You were. There's that. There's some more VIP event stuff. A little Vampires and Vino situation. I think another TTRPG game. They also had a Fang Maker there who was like, I think, booked up. People were always over in the corner getting like pretty sweet looking fangs put in.
I was very jealous of when we got to the LARP and I didn't have fangs. I was incredibly jealous of everyone who had
a
them.
lot of really cool fangs.
Yeah.
So shout out to Maven Lore, Fang Maker, who was there. We did that. We went back, get in costume, and then so how the official LARP stuff happens, there's a faction meeting. Oh, so another detail of
lore
how the
stuff,
LARP
yeah.
is set up. So on the website, you can check out, you belong to a faction. So instead of breaking up into coteries, you join one of the factions. Each of the faction has their own kind of thing going, which is cool because it's puts you with other people with similar goals. Each faction has their own sort of plot line that they can follow. So you show up and there's a story for you. And there were kind of interesting takes, not your typical like vampire stuff. We were in the Wilted Lily.
Yeah, they had like a little twist.
Yeah,
They
like-
were subversive a little bit. I liked.
What was our called?
Wilted Lily. It had a French name, but you know I don't
Lelise
speak French.
Fletchy.
and you do. So thank you
So
for
that was perfect, French.
handling that. But I was just gonna say it was kind of like a take on like the like Toreador artist kind of like archetype, and more about like your kind of not like emo scene hair, but you could have been, but just kind of like, yeah, you're like the loss of your humanity, very engaged in like these sort of sad, angsty vampire feelings.
Yeah, they're interested in like the tragedy
Yes.
of the kindred condition, but also celebrating that darkness and like breaking people down by exploring these dark stories and building them up by inspiring. Like, I don't know, it was cool. I'm glad we got in that one. But then there's some like there's an executive board, which are like that's your power,
Your Ken
power
Roys.
broker, your Ken Roys,
Your eldest son, your eldest boys.
yeah, your L to the OGs. Then they had like haymakers, which were like these like a union kind of anarchy types. There's a group that like explores magic stuff. There's a group that was connected to like the criminal world. There was I forget the number, but there was a good chunk. So there's a lot of cool little stuff going on. So you meet up with your faction, and then also on the site they have like main storylines that you can read about on there. They're connected with the different like special guests, as well as some are just sort of overarching ones as well. So you can, if you like, just look at the website a little bit, or like they also give you a pamphlet with all this stuff. Like you can go in having a good idea of understanding like the setup of the LARP. And this was a summit that the prince was calling, and it was a big deal to deal with some hostilities, we'll say, as well as see with some supernatural individuals and
The La
La
Sombra.
Sombra, which we didn't learn about till we got there, which was cool. And then our individual story was we were told to get stories from people about times where they have lost control, where they frenzied and hurt someone they cared about. We were supposed to get those stories and do a sort of reenactment.
Do a play.
A performance of them for Critias, who was played by Jason Carl. We had that. We got these little like blood tokens, which we didn't know what they were at the time, but we learned at the LARP. There's like boons, I guess, each faction gets that you
Yeah.
can like cash in with the different court members, the special guests. There's also like essentially people that are wanted, or like little wanted poster things.
Yeah.
Like there's a whole packet of like, again, this isn't a thing where we're gonna do all the stories,
No.
which is cool that like there's whole plots happening and stuff going on in the background that you might never interact with. Or so like your experience of what happened at LARP could be wildly different than someone else's, or like it can kind of crisscross in interesting ways. Like it's all very like there's a lot of plot lines to interact with, and you can go in planning. Like if you're someone who wants to like, I don't want to wing it, I'm interested in this story, you can go in and do that. We were of the wing it variety. Like I said, we were there. At least me, I was going in thinking I'd be more kind of observing, go with the flow a little bit, but more just like checking things out more than, rather than like being a super active in LARPing, because again, it was new and I was also there to kind of absorb and report. But we ended up being pulled into a lot of stuff. But we had our faction meeting. We met up with the other people in our faction. We were a little late because we didn't stay at the hotel. We had to come in, and also I'm just a late person. It's gonna happen, and that's okay. So we got the real quick rundown. Got to take some pics with the Love Bites crew for our dear friend and mortal enemy Vinvox. Roll the clips.
I had a French 75.
And you had a French 75. And then they got shuttles and they bus you over to the LARP itself, which this was at the International Museum of Surgical Science.
Which is a mansion. It's one of the like last mansions in Chicago.
Yeah, if we didn't mention it was in the mansion.
I'm fancy.
We're
I need the
fancy.
people to know that I'm fancy.
Drink French 75s and we LARP in mansions. That's the two things you need to know about us.
And they don't need to hear about us trying to get rum from 7-Eleven.
Yeah, that's a whole different
That's a whole video.
vlog about. It ain't that easy, or is it? It might be very easy.
It might be easy for people who aren't us.
We'll never tell. So we got to the place. we kind of hung out a bit. We got some pictures. There was a photographer there.
Roll the clip.
Roll the clip. Then like the court was announced. There's like a big main room. They got announced one by one. They came in. Kevin Jackson, aka B. Dave Walters, kind of then set up the premise. He kind of introduced in character terms some of the plots that were going on. Then let us know that the La Sombra were there, and they were looking to get accepted into the Camarilla. And to do so, they had like a vase, and they had to fill the vase up to a certain point with the little blood tokens. And we're like, okay, the blood tokens we got earlier, that's what they're for. So there's Ava Heloise, played by Miss Magitech. Tracy was who you might see from other games. Was the La Sombra representative for this. And that was sort of, I guess, the main, I would say, plot going on. Which was cool because every faction had blood tokens, and it was a thing that, like, it was kind of cool to have, like, a currency to, like, interact. Like, you do this for me, I'll get tokens, vice versa, and then you could funnel them to the La Sombra also for different deals.
No, it was nice to have a resource that had, like, a deadline. It had real stakes. It had, like, they had a reason to want it. Where I feel like sometimes it's like if you're doing something for money or something else like that in a LARP, it's like hard to feel like what's your attachment to this.
Yeah, like I made a business deal. I just made $100.
$1 million.
Or $1 million. Some of us.
When you're all about business, when you're there for business like me, $100 is nothing.
I was there for $100.
That's pennies. I leave that on the street when I pass it.
Damn. Miss Penny's dreadful. Yeah, that's a good point. If it was nice having something that, like, would be used and mattered that night in that LARP, not for your future. Mm-hmm. My vampire's rich now, hooray. That was cool. And that kicked off. We first started, I think we went right to Ava, and we offered, because we were like, oh, it'd be cool to be like the first to donate some blood tokens to this. And me didn't exactly know what was going on at first. I misunderstood our assignment, and I thought we needed stories from elders, because there's been mention of like the beckoning wasn't affecting Chicago for some reason. The word, it's, think about my brain, it don't work so good. The word elders was said at one point, so I decided we had to get stories only from elders. And Ava's like, I'm not an elder, I don't think any of the La Sombra are. And we're like, well, sucks for you then. Realizing we could have just got her story and it could have done what I thought, but we didn't. And thank you for supporting me in my error.
I had a thought of like, maybe he's right.
Hey, and that's why we're friends.
I was like, oh, maybe I misunderstood. But then I think you turned and you were like, that's what we're supposed to do, right? And I was like, I don't think so.
So our first big swing, big miss. But hey, that happens. That's vampire,
I think we did
baby.
leave that entire floor of the building after that.
Well, after that, we were approached. So we initiated a LARP. Then it's like, oh yeah, people just walk up to you because we're here. We're vampires
and we're dressed
now.
Cool. Roll the clips.
Dressed cool. Roll the clips. Which, again, a note, everyone was dressed so cool. We're used to being like
brag,
the coolest. A lot of these cons, people aren't thinking about their appearance, and that's okay. Be comfortable. Us, we're gonna be cool. Here, everyone brought it, and it was awesome. But also, be nice if I was special, but it's okay. But brag is we were approached by someone who ran the Succubus Club, which, if you know about vampires, it's a big deal, and that's in Chicago. And they were looking for Toreador to be performers, and because of how we looked, they assumed we were Toreador.
Which was so flattering. I said, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for thinking we're Toreador, but also...
Which, that happened twice, because Jason also was like, I thought you guys were from the East Coast.
Yeah.
Which was also a moment where I was like, thank you.
Some not a vibe.
And like I said, it's definitely your vibe. I think Solo I read is very Midwestern.
So, I mean, I read too mean to be Midwest.
Yeah.
But we look East Coast. Anyway. Oh, we should talk about our characters a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I was playing a woman named Judith. And
that's
you wrote the backstory. Mother Superior of the Order of Anemone, which was like a cult. Thank you. that I run, where people are sort of in line with the Wilting Lily, like you would confess what you'd done, and then as like a kindred, or if you were immortal, I would torment you too. That's fine. But kind of coming down with like the law, the letter of the law, punishment, your penance, delivering penance, and then your character,
Sweet Simon.
Sweet Simon.
Yeah, did this similar. I was your childer. Also, we were in the circulatory system. So, but instead of like for how we created resonances, we just ran little cults. We started with, our original idea was like a trad Catholic kind of aesthetic type of thing, which we did have a little bit. We had the Mourning Veil and the Lady of Sorrows thing. I had a white collar. That's about as far as I bought a full like cardinal roll the clip thing, and then I was like, I gotta look hot, and it worked out. We went for like kind of, we had the, what do we call it, Mary Kate and Ashley match?
We were Mary Kate and Ashley matching. Shout out, I wish I could credit the TikTok person who said that the first time, but
they nailed what we go for.
That's exactly what we do every time we're planning.
And so we went for like the black lace tie-in. But yeah, but we were caitiff, both caitiff, which was ended up being a really fun decision of like that, of like, oh, you're cool Toreador, I want you to come perform the Succubus Club. It's like, not only we're not Toreador, we were clanless, and we actually think that's better.
And we actually, that was the other thing, is we're not burdened by a clan.
Yeah, that was a great line you did. We're like, we're unburdened by clans, and so I'm looking like, oh, okay, because caitiffs are usually like, I'm a caitiff, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm not apologizing for it. I'm not like, burdened by that. Your blood wasn't strong enough to maintain its own.
Interesting. You're just kind of distilled down to a stereotype. We're our own thing. So
yeah.
Peace. And also, let's have cool powers. Where you had like oblivion, necromancy stuff. I had blood sorcery. So we both kind of worked in like the religious like ceremony of like, I'd like taste the blood and stuff. So I could do like the
what's it called?
Eucharist.
Oh.
Drinking people's blood to learn about them. I didn't get to do it, but I could. But I also took like salubri powers, so I can like make people feel calm and like, so when they confess to us, I did a thing where it's like, okay, I use this discipline on you, and now you feel relieved. You get willpower back mechanically and stuff like that. So we had pretty cool. I liked our premise, and we got to play with it a little bit. Yeah, and the most just being caitiff, I didn't run in. I know there were other, I think probably very few, but us being caitiff came into play more than I thought it would in a really fun way. And that started that. And then we just were like, hey, let's actually check the place out, because I hadn't really seen, like, it's a really
It's
cool
a cool museum. We just kind of wanted to see where we were.
Each room had a pretty, like, different vibe. As far as, like, different, like, some were kind of creepy with, like, here's, like, surgical stuff.
It was like old-timey medicine, and then you went up to the next floor, and the wall was all women in STEM, and it was, like, very, like, 21st century modern, like, surgery. And then on another floor it was like, and there's art here.
Then there's like these cool like anatomical statues and stuff. So it was a really, really cool setting they picked. And then they of course would add like lights or little things here or there to like really give different vibes. So it really did feel like each room felt like its own thing, which kind of fit different scenes. We appreciated that. So we went looking around. Oh, and that's when
we found
Lydia,
our friend.
Yeah, so we were just going to check the place out. And how did that start?
We walked in, and a woman was like, would you like to help me, or something. I'm trying to remember what she said. She started talking, and we were talking, and then it was like, oh, you're not a vampire, you're not a kindred. And then someone else was in there who also wasn't. Who I guess like was responsible for her. All this to say, there was a werewolf and a wraith in a room that we stumbled into. We were just going to check out the museum, and again, I think we were kind of being a little more passive, and someone was like, hey, will you help me? And we're like, yeah. We yes-and here. And yeah, it turns out they're a wraith named Lydia. And they're like, okay, that's cool, because you have ghost stuff. And we're like, all right, this is kind of like the perfect weird thing to run into, which is another cool thing, is like there's these storylines happening, and there's also like
people walking around, kind of as kind of NPCs almost, with just
Yeah.
a whole story ready to go as well that we got to do. Where we talked to her, found out she wanted revenge on who killed her, and to find a ledger or something. Was being real skittish. He wasn't clearly leaving out a lot of details.
Well, and I wish I could remember her name, but the werewolf who was there.
I think it was Alicia or something similar.
Okay. That sounds right. Alicia essentially said, like, she wants to go get revenge. Don't help her. And she was very shy about it because she's like, I'm surrounded by negativity. And we said, actually, we're maybe big supporters of what you're about to do. We're not necessarily against it. Why don't we sit down, have a little conversation?
Yeah, it was fun, like, talking to her, being like, okay, we're going to help this wraith, another person, because the werewolf wasn't there at first. She came in, it's like, hey, are you talking to her? And she's like, are you causing trouble, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's fine. Then the werewolf, who I believe played this werewolf at the San Antonio Larp, she's like, do you recognize me? I'm like, no. She's like, from San Antonio. I was like, we weren't there.
We're new.
And she's like, well, I'm not a vampire. And I'm like, I don't know what you are. In retrospect, clearly
had a tail.
But I'm a dummy, and I'm polite. I look you in the eyes
I was
when I
in
talk to you.
character, and I don't think that Judith would have recognized or acknowledged it.
I'm all about connecting with people, so I look you in the eyes. I'm not looking at your tail like some sort of freak. So it took me a little bit to realize, oh, you're a werewolf. Then I'm like, oh, okay, so this could be bad. But we'll convince her of like, hey, we're fine. Lydia's not causing trouble. We'll talk to her. She's like, all right. And she left. Also, someone came in and was like, hey, there's another werewolf here. And they're about to like talk to someone.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like, fuck. And she went.
Which it felt like truly someone like just juggling too many glass balls of like, I can't take care of this wraith because I have this other thing, which was a very fun energy.
Yeah. It felt like a werewolf and a vampire meeting.
Yeah,
It's like, shit, okay, I gotta go do this
damn it.
thing. So they left us alone. A storyteller came in. We got moved to another scene. So most of the LARP takes place like you're just in your actual physical space. I guess there's a couple things that happen that like, all right, this room is now this apartment complex. We did that. We went. Turns out Lydia was being like kept prisoner in the basement and like used by it was actually a really dark story.
It was a very dark story,
that,
yeah.
You weren't there, so we don't have to tell you about it. Which also Lydia was so, I don't know, just kind of like plucky.
Had a very like pixie vibe of like, it's fine, we're doing a murder, it's fine.
Yeah.
If I may invoke her name here, it's a very April Ray Gun
Yeah.
kind of.
Your energy, your tone seems kind, but your word, like there's something underlying here that's wrong.
There's a malice in there that I'm a little charmed by and a little afraid of.
And we were all about it. There's a couple other vampires who were just in the room, so just kind of went along.
Yeah.
And we were like, yeah, you could go first in case this is dangerous. We ended up, what did we do? Oh yeah, the bad dude came down, and this way we got to start using our powers.
Oh, yeah,
I entranced.
For a note about Larp, because there wasn't like an NPC for this like evil landlord. When we went to go off site, there were like storytellers around. A storyteller came in who had the notes for what the scene would be, blocked off the door, and anytime someone would come by was the person who was like, "We're not here. We're off site.
Get out of here.
Get out." And just would any stats, any roles we wanted to do was like taking stock of those, and also any character that would have been at this apartment was playing those characters.
Yeah, it was a little more traditional, like tabletop at that moment, where like the storyteller kind of started narrating the scene and playing the NPCs. So yeah, like the landlord was just the storyteller, wasn't an actual person we interacted with, type of thing. We did that. The system they use comes down to rock paper scissors, but some people had fun cards that they let us use.
Yeah, they let us borrow.
Hey,
thank you for letting us borrow. If you're seeing this, thank you for letting us use the rock paper
It was
scissors
very
card.
cool to let us do that, and that felt more fun than doing this. Put down a cool metal card. We did that. We like entranced the dude. I did, so I got to do some powers. What happened?
We had the La Sombra.
Oh, you showed him his death to freak him out.
Oh, I
You had a
did,
thing
yeah.
of like, I'm going to show you your death, which was funny because it was like just about to happen.
He was just about to get murdered by a wraith, and so I used my Oblivion power to show him his death right before it happened.
Yeah, because we were trying to be in with the wraith too, of like, yeah, we're going to fuck this guy up with you. And then the wraith was about to kill him, and the werewolf literally like just happened to like check in of like what's going on and got brought in. It's like,
Which was
damn it.
very fun because the werewolf came back upstairs in the like LARP, right? Of to be like, I'm coming back to this room to check in on the wraith, and like in the fiction, we are not in that room. So then it was the storyteller was like, you kind of come up here and they're not there, and then it was a moment of like, it's kind of fun if you track us down.
Yeah.
And it's like, and now it makes sense for this person to rejoin the scene and come in and be like, what the hell is going on? This is a huge breach. It was like the werewolf was mad about the Masquerade breach, which I found very charming and funny.
Yeah, she's like, I heard screaming from outside. What's
Like, what is happening?
We quickly explained, and the dude was losing his mind because he was seeing his death. So then the werewolf killed him.
Yeah.
And then you did a cool thing where that evil dude's spirit, you bound to the werewolf.
Yeah.
To make the werewolf haunted, which is like a condition that happens. Because I think we're still uneasy of like, this werewolf might turn on us. So let's start doing bad things, subtle bad things. So we subtly stuck an evil spirit on the werewolf, and then the werewolf was like, okay, like I'm out.
Guys, I remember asking early on of like, is this wraith bound to you in some way? And
Yeah.
they were like, no, I'm just feeling responsible. And I was like, if you want to be responsible for a ghost so bad.
Yeah. How about this one?
How about Larry?
So yeah, Larry got killed, and then the wraith was like, hey, but they kept saying I got fridged, which we didn't realize because her body was kept in the refrigerator alive, and then the fridge fell over, trapping her, and she died in there. Oh, she hid.
She hid in the Punky Brewster. If you guys know, you know. Don't get into a fridge. Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay, never mind. And if you don't know, you don't know, and we'll leave it there. But anyway, don't hide in a fridge because you can get locked in.
And then it was funny. It's like, hey, you guys can like lift the fridge, and
But
we all had no like strength.
how do 4 kindred not have 3 strength between
Yes. And like you said, the economy.
them? The economy is in shambles.
This was before Larry was killed. I entranced Larry had to help us lift the fridge.
Larry-
'Cause a group of vampires were about to be thwarted by a refrigerator because we weren't strong.
Because we
enough
couldn't
to
get in
move
the
it.
body, yeah.
Which I would have loved if that's how it ended, actually. But
It's like, well, sorry, we can't help you.
We're also-
we just go back to the mansion.
we did that and then helped the wraith. We could have buried her because, like, the idea I think was like to put her at peace, you know.
Put her
let
to
like-
rest.
But she's like, also, I want to kill everyone. We're like,
And she's like, I'm
Alright.
gonna. It was basically like her aura, which you could see.
yeah.
Like her aura was getting more and more malicious. Of like she got the revenge, and now she wants more, and she wants to go terrorize the whole apartment. And the thing she basically told us like, we just need to go there, get revenge, and then you can lay me to rest, and then I'll be at rest. And it was like, oh, it's clear that like she's kind of not worried about resting anymore. But we were never actually, at least me, I was never worried
Yeah,
about
you had
putting
the
her to
really
rest.
good idea since we are blood sommeliers and circulatory system. You're like, what if we just let you haunt this place, and then all the terrified tenants, that's going to be a certain blood resonance that we can farm. And Storyteller was like, what, you're turning this into a farm, essentially?
I said
I'm
yes.
like, yes.
I said yes. That's
And I
exactly.
said yes. And then that's what happened. We
like made a deal with the wraith
Yeah, so now we have a haunted house.
and a bunch of bloodstones.
Yeah, and we got bloodstones for it. And the ST was like, okay, cool. And he turned the wraith to Lydia. He's like, you're, I guess, free to roam and terrorize now.
He's like, you can just go haunt the LARP.
Yeah.
Like, this story has ended. You're free to go haunt the rest of the
Yeah, it's
LARP.
like, you're an angry poltergeist now. She's like, awesome. And she skipped off to go do that. And we got some bloodstones. So that was our first, like, little quest thing that happened. Was, like I said, really fun.
It fell in our lap. It was very, like, thematic for our characters. I was like, it felt good. And it was good to have something, like, early on like that. To be like, okay, like, I've got the hang of, like, what, because there was also points where we were negotiating with the other 2 kindred who were in there for bloodstones, because one of them was a La Sombra. There was like the werewolf, trying to figure out like what's going on there. So it was like just a really good way to get a handle on like different interactions, talking to different people who are like, I think getting different things out of the LARP or wanting to role play like the way that they're comfortable with, and like seeing like all of those can mesh together really well.
Yeah.
It was good.
And if you're someone who's like nervous about like, I don't know, if you're someone who's worried about like, how do I initiate a story or how do I initiate talking to someone, like,
You don't have to.
there's so many people there that will just come up to you and start role playing with you and will have something to drop in your lap. And that was
Yeah, and if
really
you
cool.
decide like this one isn't for you, like you can also keep
Very
talking.
easy to
Yeah.
apply. Yeah, they had a thing. I'll have to look into that more. That there's, even if you can essentially go through and just have it kind of be ambiance, where they have like a solo story of like little things to scan, like QR things, and like there's a mystery built in there to where like if you were feeling overwhelmed or just not like interacting with someone, there's like a whole plot built just for people to follow the like.
Which felt very like immersive theater, like Omega
Yeah.
Mart, where you're like clicking on
Yeah,
stuff and
because a lot of times it's cool to just like walk around and like everywhere you look there's like stories happening, and sometimes it's cool to just like listen in or just like immersive theater. It's just like almost like being like the ultimate audience member to all of these cool things.
And you can do stuff differently throughout the night. Like if you're like, okay, I just had like a really cool thing. I think I'm going to be a wallflower for a second and just like eavesdrop and make small talk with the other people who are kind of taking a minute. That was also totally fine.
Yeah, there's spaces just to kind of step out and chill or whatever. Like I was also worried, not worried, but didn't know what the expectation of us like. Am I like this breaking character, huge faux pas
Right.
type of thing? But also if like everyone's just like it's kind of out of character, laissez-faire.
Everyone is very like
It'll-
it's very fluid. Like you can tell when someone's in character, when they're not, and kind of
Yeah.
when you're taking a step back. Like it was
felt very easy to get on the same page as people and not like mess up people's immersion, but also not be like stuck in like, no, me as like I'm confused or like I'm talking person to person. Like obviously there's like symbols for it.
Yeah.
There's mechanics for that, but also it was easy not to get tripped up by them, because this LARP isn't Nordic styles. There was like hardly any mechanics. This one does have mechanics. We like make character sheets and everything.
yes. I still have questions about the character sheets because I had different dots and things, but I don't think it ever came up.
Didn't. And I'll be
Yeah.
honest, we weren't very good preparing mechanic wise. I hadn't really read the rules. I had the gist of it. Technically, I think how it works is like your stats matters. Like I think it's stat versus stat. I don't know if rock paper scissors also goes into it.
I know if there was like a conflict, you could get a storyteller who would like hash it out for you essentially. So I think we just were never in a situation where we needed to go beyond rock paper scissors.
Yeah.
Where it felt very much like you're using a discipline, I'm using this, we'll just rock paper scissors.
Yeah.
And if something had happened, I think it would have been fine. But
Yeah, and there's storytellers like everywhere
Yeah.
walk around. They have like little thing marking them, and you could bring them in because I'm sure there's things like, hey, my stats in this are so good, and like you barely stand a chance to defend, so like it shouldn't be random.
Right.
I think there are situations where that comes into play, but also this being the book and those rules are intended for people who run regular LARPs, like home LARPs and things like that. This being sort of an event LARP, a premiere LARP, I think they really toned down the mechanics because there was what 200 or about 200 people or more there, so like they're not getting into mechanics for every interaction, and it felt pretty seamless. But also like that was an option if you're someone who knows the mechanics and wanted to lean on them. I definitely saw some people that were doing that, and it seemed fine too.
yeah, I think we're about to get into a story where there was a moment where we were like, do we need a storyteller? And the person just said, no, I'll just fail this.
Yeah,
They're like,
yeah.
no, it does not matter. And so I kind of like there's like the option to
Negotiation.
fail or option to just leave it up to chance. And I think enough people were, especially that we ran into, fine with that
Yeah, people seemed very good at like kind of
failing. Like,
yeah, and just going along with like, oh, this is what you're trying to do. Like, yeah, do it. Like,
Yeah.
let's see where this goes. And that was really refreshing, especially from people like you. I always get nervous with strangers, like how I don't know.
it's just, are you
Some people
here
hate
to
losing.
win? Right. Are you here to win, or what are you trying to get out of this role play interaction versus what am I trying to get out of it? And how do we like find that compromise? And I think some people are more attached. It's a character they've played for a long time, or these other things that they're maybe there for a different reason.
Or just a bad, selfish role player in person. You're out there.
I
We
mean-
didn't run into them, so that was cool.
No.
Yeah, and this is LARP is mostly player versus player. Like most of us are like guests in attendance in this thing. Not a lot of like, we interacted with storytellers, NPCs, but that was a little more rare. So you also have to keep that in mind, that like if you're coming in to win everything, that means you're making your other players lose every time they interact with you. Which, I mean, again, is things that there's a lot of things I was worried about. Like I don't know. I'm cynical. I think a lot of people aren't my favorite, and I was expecting to run. I kind of went in with not low expectations, but not a great belief of people's ability to like be a good vibe, and I was very pleasantly surprised. Like truly, I didn't run into really anyone that I had an issue with or who ruined the role play or anything like that. I was really impressed with everyone's ability to like know what they're doing and make it fun for not just themselves and other people. From there, we kept exploring, saw some more scenes, and then there was someone who was saying, hey, we need volunteers for a social experiment. And we're like, hey, last time we just kind of went with something that was fun. Let's do this.
Can I say one thing?
One of
the people who was shouting was one of the girls from the stoop.
Right. They weren't playing a Freeman sister, though. That was jarring, seeing my gossipy Arkansas ladies
true.
As
executive committee, right?
It seemed like they're on the executive. Yeah. They were bosses, and I was like, these venture wouldn't stoop, and I wouldn't stoop with them.
But we would play a social.
Yeah, but if we're doing a social experiment, I'm gonna play.
I love the circle.
And I'm glad we did. So we got set at tables, and they explained that the game is the prisoner's dilemma, which they gave us each a card, like deck of cards. You had a black and a red, and if you both voted to cooperate the same color, which was a red. If you voted as red, then you each got a fang coin. There was like
a Bitcoin. Oh, were we supposed to give those back?
Nope. Hope not. Spoilers. We did good. Does it sound cool?
That's some ASMR, yeah.
Fang coin.
Oh, I actually fucking hate that, and I'm not listening to it in headphones or anything, so you have to stop.
I'll be sending it to you.
I will block your number again.
Fuck. I'll buy a new number with my Fang coin. So yeah, the idea was you were in pairs, and obviously if you both agree, you each get a coin. If one person betrays the other, they get 2 coins, you get nothing. But both don't cooperate, no one gets anything. So they got everyone's names, they got everyone's clans, and it seems like it was a test to be like which clans don't work well with others. But we did notice they went through all the clans, like if you're this clan, raise your hand. This clan, they never said Caitiff, so we're like, okay.
Noted.
So then we did it. We were paired up, and we're teammates. We're sire and child there. So like, we'll just cooperate.
Well, at first I said, what if I just defect and you cooperate and we just agree?
Let's let you win every time.
Because you're in my cult. I'm your mother.
I'm your mom.
And so you're going to do what I say.
I will betray you.
And so I'll betray you just to make it look like...
Too real.
To make it look like, something's going on. But then they were like, we're going to expand this out to other groups. So and we were like, flip the strategy. We cooperate every time so that when they look, they can say they've cooperated every time. That gives us a little wiggle room. Yeah,
so we started with pairs. They were going to keep combining groups. So then we're like, okay, when we get the big groups, on paper we'll have a cooperative track record. Then we get them. And either way, we get the same coins. So we share our resources. It's all hers. And so we did that. We were at a table. There's 2 of us. There's 2 others. There's the Salubri. Simone, I remember, because a very close name to my own. And then Liv, who was a Lasombra, who's clearly like going through something, like was real just like agitated and like stressed and whatnot. And they told us like out of character, like, hey, I'm okay, not a character, but like I'm under the ruthless compulsion. I'm like, oh, okay, it's good. Like, I forgot about compulsions are a thing. So it's cool that like you're under this.
And I believe it was ruthless, and they were cooperating every time. So it's like it was harder.
Yeah, they were fighting their instincts to win because they're trying to be cooperative. And one person from our table, the Salubri got moved, so it was just us and Liv. There was another person from the executive board who came over, and she was like observing. And I tried talking to her. I'm like, "What? Like, who's this for?" And she's like, "Well, I can't disclose. Like, they tasked the executive board with this experiment." But I'm like, okay, so this is like just some secret. Someone's collecting data, so that's interesting. But then we talked to Liv of like, "Hey, what's going on with you? You did which became the most useful part of the night, the Din of the Damned, where like." Essentially makes it to where if people listening in or whatever just hear scary things. So we did that because and we were like, hey, we want to do this thing, do we need a storyteller? And that's when the executive board person's like, oh no, it works.
Like, I don't hear you.
I don't hear you there. Yeah, so we're like, okay, cool, we didn't have to like roll that out. So we got to have like a private conversation at our table with Sombra, and we were like, hey, we'll let you in because we were combining if you'll give us a confession. And they're like, okay. Like, we talked him into it. And then we did the thing. We let them win. They won, which their compulsion, like, was able to kind of start going away since they had a victory. And then they agreed to give us that. But then when the guy came around and was collecting, like, who won, and they're like, who? And they're like, La Sombra, and they're like, what was the word for, like, defect.
Sombra defected.
Yeah, defected, like they're doing the results. And the table next to us, someone was like, oh, of course, because, La Sombra defected. And they, like, got up and, like, tossed their chair over. Like, Liv killed it. It was all, and we were like, oh, shit, okay. And this was, like, the compulsion just ended, and they're, like, still, like, clearly weren't hearing that. So, like, that pissed them off. Like, it's okay. We calmed them down a little bit, and then we combined with that table.
Sorry. So what I was going to say is, or when they were in their compulsion, they just said, I just need a win. I said, that's why we made the deal, right? Like, you need a win. We'll give you a win. You give us a confession. And then we went to go join the table of the guy who just yelled. And I said, do you still need a win, or do you just need him to lose? And Liv said I would like him to lose. And I said, great, we'll both defect. I said, I'm making, like, as we're walking up to the table, I was like, we will both plan to defect.
We're just going to defect and screw that group over, which is fun.
Because then nobody wins because we both know we're going to do it, and you just take,
Yeah.
And that would have been great.
Because, they just pissed off Liv, and we hadn't gotten the confession yet, so, like, we need to really look like we're sticking up for Liv here. So we're like, well, we'll fall on the sword. Liv won't get in trouble. She could still vote to cooperate.
Also, to my mind, Judith has no idea what Fangcoin is. A lot of what I was playing in that moment was like, Judith doesn't get what Fangcoin. I think it was supposed to be like crypto.
Yeah.
It was like crypto. No concept of that.
You're old money.
I'm old money.
You haven't had to make an honest living my
entire
and you never will.
Life or death.
That's why you had me.
And that's why you're here. So I was like, I'll ruin somebody's day.
And we won all the ones leading up to it. Well, besides when we lost to Liv, so we had some Fang coin. But we went in, and that was a group of like quite a few of them I know were people who like out of character worked for By Night. So like big characters. There's like the Nosferatu, there's La Sombra, there's Tremere. There's a whole collection of respectable kindred there. And as soon as we walk up to their table, they're like going. They're like, okay. They're like, all right, sit down. They're like, we're all cooperating. They're like, anyone who doesn't cooperate, you owe everyone else a boon.
They said to make it more interesting, everyone's agreeing if you don't cooperate to do this.
Yeah, but they just like, we walked up and they just hit us with that, and we're like, and I was kind of pushed back on it. I'm like, well, I don't know. That's not really the spirit of the game.
I want you to know that I sat down and put my defect card in.
Yeah, you didn't say a word.
I didn't say a word. I put my.
You didn't agree and you didn't argue. You just sat down and got your defective card ready. And I pushed back because.
Well, and Liv pushed back for a second, and then Liv was like, "Fine, I'll do it."
They were aggressive, like in character. It was like in a fun way. Like it really felt like we were in over your head. Like you came in, it's like, hey, we're all gonna. I think they did threaten to jump me. They're like
because it came down to the executive board came over and said you have to play the cards, and they said okay, we all agree. If he's not going to agree, we all agree we're going to jump him if he doesn't cooperate.
Yeah,
and so then they slow.
Yeah, so then they did the thing, and like because I'm the one who put up like I don't agree with this, and I'm about to fuck up their whole thing, and they're like fuck you, blah blah blah. They're like and they're like you gotta go, and like all right, we're gonna jump his ass if he doesn't do this, and I'm like fine, and I just check in with you. I'm like you're defecting, right? And then I cooperated, so I was getting yelled at, I didn't get jumped because I cooperated. I just drew the aggro from her, and she quietly defective. So it was all cooperation, just the one, and you won all those sweet
Which it was
coins.
so much better than like just sabotaging to sabotage.
Us just screwing everyone over.
Which would have been fun. Which
Yeah.
would have been very fun. I would have been really happy with. Because they did them one at a time, and that when my card flipped over, you could see they all realized they picked the wrong target.
Yeah.
Like
I just it felt so good, and it felt that was very in character. I'm like, I'm the one, like I'm here to take
That's your
take
role,
that
yeah.
heat, and you're just like pulling the strings. Yeah, no one even thought, and you're like, I never agreed, but you didn't. They just forgot about that because I was the one who immediately disagreed. It was great, and then they were all pissed. We all got like the stink eye, and they do grumble and leave, and it was great.
it changed my vibe the rest of the night.
Oh yeah, it felt very good. It felt very good. And then the executive board came and they collected the results, and we got all of our money. And then that's why I hit him with. I noticed that you didn't collect. You never asked our clan. They're like, oh, did you not get? And I was like, well, you asked all of the clans except one, which was Caitiff. And he was like, oh. And I'm like, make sure you put that in your little notes that a Caitiff just beat a Lasombra, a Tremere. Like, just beat an entire table full of clans in your little game. And Jimmy Reckett, the lead storyteller, was like there with that. I saw him just like give me a look, and I was like, all right, that feels cool, because he was like, shit, okay. And then I gave him a tip of one of his coins.
That was funny.
Yeah, and I was like, just make sure that gets in your notes. So that felt very cool.
That whole interaction was like, and then even after that, we got Liv's confession.
Yeah, and then the confession was really cool.
It was really great.
Which the room cleared out. Liv, like I said, killed it, really played up like the emotions, and they were struggling with. They were one of the Lasombros, like their fate was in the balance that night, just for their whole clan.
But they were also like had, sorry to put you on blast, Liv, it's like a Sabbat tie. They had, and then we also got a story of them, like the beast getting the better of them for the Waltzing Lily stuff.
So we got our full like good confession.
Yeah.
They killed their girlfriend in a hunger frenzy, and we got that story. And then learned that they were doing stuff with the circulatory system, but not for us.
And then I was gonna try to poach.
Yeah, we threw it out there of like, well,
if you ever want a career change.
But yeah, we got the confession. And then like after Liv told us about that, I used like the power to like calm them of like, doesn't it feel good that you told us now? So yeah, that we got to do our thing, and we won money and looked good doing it, and got the, like I said, the Caitiff came into play, which was fun. That was big. That was really cool. And then we were riding that high.
Yeah.
But then there was a big meeting. So they had it wasn't a key party. That's a different thing that gets associated with LARPs often. And I'm not going to say one thing or another about what was going on this one. But you had to have a key to get in like this secret meeting with a prince and some people, which I think might have had something to do with the VIP people, but maybe not. Could have been people collected keys from a different plot that night. I don't know. We didn't have keys.
We were keyless. Sorry, I just kicked you.
But yeah, then they came and had a meeting next to us, in the room next to us, so we kind of cleared out. Oh, now we finally, so each time we went to a different, there's 3 floors?
4 floors.
4 floors. Each time we went to a new floor, we got pulled into a story. We still had only seen, this was on the 2nd floor, we still hadn't seen the place, so now we finally actually got to see the rest of the museum. On the top floor, that's when we saw the Harpy, who...
Oh, that
Harpy
was fun.
was wild. She... such a good projection voice. Like I said, there's I think roughly 200 people there. The Harpy was making an announcement. You heard the Harpy making an announcement cut through
Any floor.
Yeah. Was in like this little back room talking to Critias. We stepped in. They were having like a breakdown. They're like, get out.
Genuinely, that was the most immersed I felt.
Yeah.
Of, like, where it was like other times it's like we can kind of feel where the character is and we're not. I walked in that room and I said, I have to get out.
And we were feeling ourselves. We're gliding.
Yes.
You're gliding in your dress across this museum after just big dogging everyone in this game, and then we step to the room, so it says get out, like, and we ran away and we hid around the corner. It didn't feel enough to leave. I'm like, because my mind, I'm thinking like move, like when video game logic, someone's chasing you. I always hate when people keep running. Just go to the side. So we duck into a side room and hide,
Which you could see from the other side of the room. So I got to spy. Because then some more people came in, and then they were...
Yeah, I didn't see the other people. I heard, we ran and hid, and then I heard her say, actually get in here. And I'm like, is she talking to us? I'm like, no, we stay hiding. But luckily, I think she was talking to someone else. Anyway, that was immersive and scary.
It was.
It's when we were the most out of character, maybe.
But also, right, because we were
just checking out the museum. And
then all of a sudden, we were like, oh, no.
We're in trouble, run. That was fun. Then that's also when I discovered there are drinks there. There's essentially an open bar.
There are drink tickets that got passed around, but it was like it was not like one. I didn't get the sense there was like a limit. It's like if you were there, people were going to hand you one, and then they
drink responsibly. But
yeah,
an amazing perk that I was unaware of. So we got some drinks,
which I assumed the drink tickets, because when you checked in, you get like a little drink ticket in like a pouch, and I was like, oh, that's for the mixer that we missed. I was
I thought that too.
But then it was like, oh no, there's like you could only drink on the first floor, but there was a bar there, and
yeah, so that was cool.
Have your red wine in a glass, pretend it's blood.
You're allowed to pretend.
And it's encouraged there.
We'd eat food merit, so we didn't even have to pretend if we didn't want to.
I forgot that we did that.
We were going to bring snacks.
We're going to be eating goldfish.
Then we met up with other Wilted Lily people. We caught up with them, and then realized we were maybe the most successful. One other person, I think, had a story, and we're like, oh, so we're
doing really well.
We're
tonight.
doing the best. We thought you guys would be doing the best. Okay. But because of that, they gave us some of our faction boons. So we took the boon for the prince. We're like, oh, let's give us the prince one. We'll go get a story from the prince. That's got to be like...
That'll impress Critias.
Right. That's more impressive. So we got that. Oh, so then we went up, but they were in the key meeting. And then the key meeting took a long time. So then
we went to the... Because we met with our faction before the actual faction meeting.
Yeah, there's a time where it's like, hey, at this time, link up with their faction again. So this was before that. But then we were getting close to that time. We're like, well, okay, this meeting's going on too long. We won't be able to get to the prince. So we went down, hung out with them again. That's when I got that great picture of our Wilted Lily with the knife.
Who was the other one who got a story, which was it was like fully written out.
Yeah, it was like written paper. Like in first person almost, of like it was a shovelhead story. Yeah. Someone like being thrown into a pit and having to eat someone. We're like, okay, this is awesome. We're like, well, let's start preparing for this and figure out who's going to reenact it. We're on standby of as soon as the prince goes to the meeting, we'll see if there's time to grab a story from him. While waiting, someone from the game that we screwed over... From
the Prisoner's Dilemma.
...came up, which we deserved it a little bit, because I didn't know you were doing this. I don't think you knew I was doing it. So every time we saw them, we gave them a little look.
Every time I saw them in passing, I would smile and cheers. Which, again, not in the character I had made for the night. I was trying to be stoic, intimidating. But it's like I couldn't do anything about my own energy after
so happy
that. I was like, I'm a different...
Yeah, we tried switching it up where you were going to play like the mean, scary, distant one, and I was going to be like the friendly, outgoing one. And
I just turned smug.
But then we got smug.
We both just became very smug.
So every time we saw that guy, he would shake his head at me, and I'd give a little shrug.
One of these.
Yeah, a lot of cheers.
A lot of cheersing from a distance. Like,
Yeah, so we're a little too smug, and he walks up to us at one point, looks at me, he says, hey, you remember how you were insulting the Tremere and you were about to go confess to the Seneschal, who's a Tremere, that you were talking shit? And I'm like, what? And then it's like, they're using a power. It's like, fuck.
He was like, oh no. And then I'm like, that's my child. I have to be responsible. So then I tried to...
I lost my thing to resist, and then you lost your thing to dominate him. Yeah. So we got...
Then he dragged off, and I was like, oh, I just have to follow. So I had to leave the meeting.
Yeah, you went. It's like, that's my child. I need to go. And I'm like, I'm going to get in trouble. Which was funny that we were just being smug, and then it hit me like, oh, shit, they could do something about this. Oh, no.
There's consequences. I was reaping, but now I must sow.
I hate this. So we went, Seneschal's posted up in like the chair in the court area. And I confessed because I was in my brain, because of the powers you saw me, thought I did the bad thing. And then the guy who was getting us in trouble was like, hey, don't, and like, I think that should at least be like, you should offer a boon for an apology. And the seneschal was like, yeah, go talk to the harpy about the boon, because that's the person who keeps track of the boons. So I went with him to do that. While that was happening, you talked to the seneschal.
I basically came in and I was like, I've been with him all night. This never happened. This is my child. I said I will take whatever responsibility. Like, I will take on, like, if you are going to pass judgment, I know this didn't happen, but hold me accountable, not him.
I know my son, he would never
my son would never. But also, it was quite loud in there, so I don't think at that point the seneschal, or the guy playing the seneschal, had like gotten the full story. I think he was just like, Boone, go talk to the harpy. That was like the main area where like the big like throne chair people were kind of taking turns sitting in when the prince was gone was there. So just like a lot happening, a lot of chaos.
It was towards the end of the night,
and
too.
A lot of people were trying to get in front of like the seneschal because you might have had a boon specific to them, or you might be looking for the harpy because you had like a specific thing. So especially when that meeting upstairs let out, I think a lot of people were like, okay, now we have to use all this stuff. So it got a little like...
There's a lot of big important meetings happening at the end. The Anarch and Camarilla were having a meeting. There's the werewolf. There's a bunch of...
There was a changeling meeting. That
the clip.
I still don't really know what happened.
I have no idea.
I have no idea.
They
what
look
was
so
going on.
cool in the
They looked
costumes.
very cool.
There's Knox from Hunter's Entertainment. I forget her name. The person from Hunter's Entertainment. Cynthia Marie were changelings. They looked awesome. But luckily the harpy was in the middle of a conversation, and the guy came talking about something, and harpy was playing up like being like, if you approach her at the wrong time, you got snapped at. So it's funny that the guy got one over. We were going to get my boon recorded for me doing a bad thing, and because she was in the middle of a conversation with someone else, she's like, why are you interrupting me? I am talking to this beautiful blah blah blah, like, get out of here. The guy just looked at me and was like, you're lucky. I got out of trouble.
He was like, you're very lucky. Later we did have to apologize, or we had to say
later the seneschal came and big dogged me a little bit, and he's like, so what's this about you talking shit in the Tremere? I was like, I'm sorry. And he's like, and you're not going to do that again, right? It's like, you actually think the Tremere are awesome, don't you? I'm like, yeah. So he did bring it back later. But you know what was important? It was in front of the guy who wanted it.
Yeah, it was.
He didn't see me grovel, so that's what counts. That happened. Yeah, then the key meeting got out, so we ran in there. Obviously, people swarmed the prince. We got a story out of Inyaga. And then we did get a story out of the prince, kind of. Which even told us out of characters. Like, Kevin Jackson's a narcissist, so it's not really going to admit losing
the beast
control.
Got the best of him, yeah.
I tried angling it as like, won't it be inspirational for the kindred to know even the prince sometimes like errs, and like that's just like how important it is to be on top of your beast, because it even gets to the prince. And we used a boon. He technically gave us a little something, just enough, but we were like out of time. We had to go reenact this. So I kept you downstairs.
I was like, I'll stay down here because I have the story. You go find
the Wilted Lily. I was going to find the rest of our people, give them the story so we could do this. So I go up 4 floors. I'll look in every room of every one of these 4 floors, come back down. Everyone's gone. And I was like, I lost. They killed my whole faction while I was gone.
No, I'm there, and someone from our faction runs up and is like, sees me and is like, oh, thank God, do you have the story? And I said, yeah, we got the story, my friends, whatever. And I'm like, I'll text him because I'm trying to just get Bully back down there so he can be part of it. And we go, and we were meeting Critias in an alley outside, not like last time when we went out to an apartment and they put a door. I physically went outside the building and into an alley. They were wrapping up their performance, see me, and they're like, done, but we have an encore if you have time. Which it felt so cinematic of like me coming in with the last piece of information, but also like I had a very like a grain of a story that was told to me in a very loud room. And I had to reenact it. And so I told the person who'd come to get me, and I'm like, hey, you're gonna be the person I kill in this reenactment because you're right next to me. So I prefaced it with a little bit about how like the prince was being like, he's saying that this was committed and as a justified act, and that this was not the beast getting the better of him. And then I told the story to make it clear that like I thought the beast was getting the best of him. And there was a little conversation after that, courteous about art, critique. We shook hands. Successful night. We got, I think it was a boon, was like ultimately what was given to the Wilting Lily. I go back inside and I see this guy roll the clip in a group of people wearing cowboy hats in a full photo shoot. Just full. And it was in like the entryway. So it was like I opened the door and I could just see you at the end of the hall with a row of other people doing the same hat.
Yeah, and that's why I learned my real mission that night. I didn't see these people the whole night, and I turned a corner. Again, this is after looking in every room of a 4-story mansion for my friends, not finding them. Turn a corner, and I see a bunch of people at cowboy hats pose.
You said, these are my friends
Yeah,
now.
and I said, are we doing a hat pick? And they all were friends who had a thing going, and I
didn't think I knew that.
hope they had pictures without me. I feel bad, but they also were very, very kind and immediately let me get in. We took many photos with the official photographers there.
I thought the official photographer had like collected
No,
cowboy hat people.
I don't know. I just stepped in and I'm like, whoa, this is, and then I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, can I? And they're like, yeah. They were awesome, and it was one of my favorite photos of the night. So my mission was successful. And that's how that ended, yeah?
That's how our stories wrapped up.
What about yours?
I said ours.
No, yours, the audience.
I felt like you were looking at me.
No, this, I'm looking at
I
you.
know, but there's a screen right there where my
audience.
face is. I'm so serious.
Oh.
Just a little behind the scenes information.
Just so you
We're
know,
recording this at a monitor.
there's a screen. Sorry.
Sorry.
Although, and then the very end, the prince came. The summer didn't have enough tokens. So I was like, shit, the summer just out? But no, there's something to where, like, someone had sabotaged them. The prince was like, this whole thing was to reveal, like, who was working against us. So the summer were brought in. A lot of deals. There's a lot of, like, big deals happening. Like I said, we kind of were involved in smaller stuff that was still, like, really fun and impactful for, like, on a character level. I wish I could tell you all the, like, the big plot stuff that happened. But the cool thing is Darkness Emergent does they do a recap that they'll put up of the results of what happened. Like I said, it's an ongoing chronicle where this will now affect things that happen in the other games and stuff like that.
Maybe in Vegas.
Most definitely. But yeah, we caught the tail end of that story. Prince gave a cool final speech and ended the night. And then there's another social thing. But we went and crashed, and because we had a train so early.
And I don't know if I mentioned it, but I had Frona earlier that weekend, and I was not ready to drink a bunch.
And you're so excited for a train again, you're already getting rumbly. But it was still awesome. Yeah, so some of them from Love Bites, like I mentioned, a game with our good friend Vin Vox, the only one missing from that whole group. Interesting decision on their part. And then people from Magi RPG and stuff like that. So it was cool. And Queen's Court, of course. And then on Sunday, like I said, we had to leave early, but they have sort of a Darkness Emergent, the Afters, which you think's a recap?
I think it's a recap.
Probably a recap type of thing. And then that's when you can buy your stuff if you wanted anything from the merch, which had a lot of cool stuff, and where the auction ended. And that was it. We were on a train. Which, talk about the train.
I have to catch one right now. But it's been great spending time with all of you.
Well, we gotta.
What's up? I thought that was a really good segue out.
I mean, I guess that I gotta catch a train.
I'm not
do
even
final
wearing a
thoughts.
Final thoughts?
Yeah. What are your final thoughts overall? It's like I said, we have done a Larp before. It was very different. It wasn't a con. It was just like you went, you did a workshop, and then you did the Larp. It was organized a different way. It was a Nordic Larp. We also didn't take a train, so that was very different. But me personally, I like this. To me, had all the best parts of a con, to where like the people you're interested in seeing at a con were there because it was small and all was taking place in like a floor of a hotel. You'd actually get to see and talk to the people you're interested in seeing and talking to. The panels were interesting and accessible and running around a lot of places. And also, like, if you wanted to like roll dice and play games, you could do that. If you wanted to LARP, there was a LARP every night. If you wanted to do like socialize or social events every night, there's merch if you like to buy. Like, it had, like, obviously it was way smaller than any convention, but it really was like more convention than I thought going into it. I thought it mostly we LARP and that's it. But there was a lot more to offer if you're interested in all that stuff. And I like socializing at cons, not a lot else. So, but this I realized, like, broken down like this, it's like, oh, this is stuff that is interesting at cons. And like I said, it's kind of the best of a convention experience for me personally. And then you get to LARP at the end of the day each time, which was cool. If I did it again, I would definitely participate in some of the other LARPs. But also we had interviews to do. Hey, we did our best. And we got a lot of cool stuff, met a lot of cool people, and that's what these things are all about. And it's awesome. It was in Chicago, a city I'm very familiar with, and I'm excited to do one in a city I'm not familiar with too. What are your thoughts? How are you feeling about this LARP, or just LARP in general? Like I said, I was on them before. Feel much better. This I would do again.
I had fun at the last one we went to. So I think I was a little more like optimistic, a little more like ready to get into it. And then I got sick. And then I was and then I threw up. And so then I was like, unrelated to LARP, just didn't want to do a whole lot on some of those days. It's just one of those days. But I ended up having a lot of fun. I definitely found it interesting. This one definitely had a lot more like Vampire the Masquerade, like lore that was relevant to me and a character I was playing. The last one, it was like a mortal with no expectation of knowing anything. Where this one was definitely more like people are having conversations and no one's explaining the clan terms and things like that. So, I just, not good or bad, just something I picked up on and was like, this is just a different experience and more political in terms of like PvP combat. I don't think I saw any or let alone like participated in it, which I liked because I think that the RP part is more my speed than the combat stuff. So I liked that. It was kind of like everyone's like, we're gonna work this out through powers or conversation or things like that. So that was fun. And I love getting dressed up with a bunch of people who are also getting dressed up, and we're all excited to be there. And the one thing, everybody who had their character, I feel like really loved it. Like, you could tell there was like a connection to playing the character they were there to play that night. Even if it was like we maybe flipped from character in and out a little bit so we're all on the same page, but I was like, you could just tell people were bringing a character they were excited to play all night. And that was really cool.
Yeah, it was just like a good vibe. People were like, you could tell people had a good time, and like you could just tell people were like excited to be there. Were having fun doing their things. Everyone was like feeling themselves in their costumes and stuff. I don't know. It was just like a good
people were hyping each other
energy.
up. Everyone was like excited to see like, oh, I'm like, you put an outfit on and now I have questions and now I'm going to find you later and figure out what's.
Yeah, like I said, that was the thing I was had the lowest expectations of, and nothing to do with this in general. In life, I think people's vibes are rancid, and but this was, I was like, people have awesome vibes here, and that warmed my little heart. It really did. It was a really cool group, and I also like that it's, I assume we'll see a lot of the same people like at future ones, since it's an ongoing thing, so it's kind of cool. But also, there was a lot of new people. I was thinking we might be like in the minority of like very new to LARP. There's a lot of first timers and things like that, and it didn't feel like, oh, you could tell these are the first timers and these aren't. You really couldn't tell, because everyone was just really willing to work with each other. Yeah. And a lot of people, this is definitely something that I would recommend going with a LARP buddy, like we did. It made all the difference. Roll the clip.
Another
Roll the clip.
Rachel appreciation clip.
Oh.
But yeah, there's a lot of like either pairs or groups that you could tell went together, but also it wasn't like clicky to where like they only kept stuff in their group and things like that. Like everyone was interacting with everyone, which was really cool and just happened effortlessly. It was a cool thing of like you just expected everyone to kind of get the vibe and do their best, and they really did. So kudos to you, Darkness Emergent LARP community. I thought I'd hate you, and I love you.
I thought I'd have a good time, and I did.
Despite
throwing up.
One runaway train, never come back.
And that's how we end videos. Roll the clip.
Hey, and roll the clip. Bye.
This is my neutral face, so no, I guess not. Do I need to look pissed?
Yeah, look pissed.
I don't have like I don't think I go serious.
You look pissed? Those are bad.
I cry.
Okay. Cry? Maybe try cry?
Just
What energy are you feeling? Top 3 energies.
Alpha Wolf.
Alpha Wolf? Vlog?
Beta Wolf.
Beta Wolf and Vlog Wolf?
Omega Wolf.
Okay.
Vlog doesn't even enter my top 3, but
Beta does.
yeah.
Okay.
If we were both little betas about the LARP.
2 little betas?
2 little betas. That's a podcast.
Is that our vlog?
That's the Wolfskin vlog. Yeah. So yeah, I guess vlog.
The full title is Wolfskin Vlog. 2 little betas. All right.
Which is like a very beta title for.
Yeah.
Because they're already having to justify, defend them. Like, we're allowed to do this. We can't, like an alpha just vlogs, you know.
Things on the alpha, they just vlog. Welcome.
Should we do a silly one?